So that's not charging. They have
he was a very nice man, but he probably ran out of I hope I can have
Should I crack the lens? Even the batteries are used but I good evening, Peter. How are you? Huh? Scoot, you're here? That's the good bit.
You still working right now?
Me, yeah.
Holidays?
No, I'm
You're part of the teaching and
no, I work at MIN administration, so I work all year. Registrar's office?
How do you know all about astronomy?
Hockey. I don't.
No, I thought maybe you were science.
No, well, I have a degree in science, but it's not astronomy. Biology.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. See, Miles was one of my teachers. Miles was one of my teachers, Dorothy and Miles.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Miles used to be a biology professor.
Yeah, right.
He taught me a couple of courses.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I think you mentioned.
Cell biology and developmental systems.
Oh, what cell biology?
Yeah,
Doris.
Who are you on?
will be.
Oh, will be, okay.
You didn't have Dorothy as a teacher?
No.
What's Miles' specialty?
Cell biology.
You sell it.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the June meeting of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, Victoria Centre. Just a reminder, this is our last meeting until September, so we take a little break over the summer. But it's good to see a lot of people here tonight. Turn that down just a bit. How's that? That's better. So on the agenda this evening, we'll have a few announcements. We've been trying to have some observing highlights, and that hasn't been happening too much because we've had very poor observing weather this year. But we've had a couple of decent nights up at the summer star parties, and maybe I'll just share a few things that I've seen that I hadn't seen before. 2 weeks ago, we discovered, I think it was in Sky and Telescope, and I think it was mentioned in Sky News as well, that there's a double shadow transit of Jupiter. And I'd never seen one of those before, so that's where two of Jupiter's moon's shadows are on the surface of Jupiter at the same time. And so we were able to see that and timed it right because luckily we have some large enough telescopes because it wasn't really ideal for us because it was happening when it was still fairly light out. It was said to be better in Eastern Canada, not out here. So that was really neat. And last week, because Jupiter's been the star of those evenings on Saturday, we actually had two moons appear right beside the limb of Jupiter at about 45 minutes apart, which was quite interesting. I don't think I'd ever seen two of those in the evening. So a few observing highlights unintentionally. And I don't even think we knew about the double shadow transit. Well, somebody did because they said, "Oh, did you look in the Sky and Tel?" I think it was. And there it was in Skyness as well. So we'll have some announcements. We do have some upcoming events that I'll mention. We have a guest speaker postponed from February. I think it's very apt that a person who hails from the Northwest Territories gets snowed out of the meeting. I thought that worked really well. But, and after the meeting, we have coffee, tea, and cookies in the Elliott Building 4th floor lounge. So everybody's welcome to join us. I think we have some visitors tonight too, so welcome. If you're not a member of the society, we have some complimentary Sky News magazines here. There are the current editions, so please feel free to help yourself. So just to do a few announcements. So we're into the full swing with the summer star parties, and I think those have been going quite well. We've tried something a little different this year where we're going to have star parties almost every Saturday through till September 23rd. So the attendance has been a little low, but people have been very excited at what they've been seeing. We've actually had some quite good nights of viewing, and so far the forecast for the next couple of days is looking pretty dismal, but it's supposed to clear by Saturday, so we'll hope. And again, hope for some clear skies, and maybe we can see some things there and share some of that with our visitors. Another thing that's coming up that I did want to mention is what's really exciting is Victoria High School is starting an Astronomy 11 course in the next school year, which will be senior high astronomy course is very rare. In fact, I think almost non-existent in Canada. So this is they're trying to start this out, and I'll just point out that this Saturday, they are going to have an inaugural star party at the school. So if you don't want to go up to the observatory, there's another thing you can do on Saturday night, and David's going to be a speaker at that, for amongst others. So it looks like if you want more information, I can give you the web link. So on the membership front, right now we have 250 members in the center, with I think 13 on the grace period membership. So it's kind of creeping up a little bit, so that's good to see. I think, was there anything else? Oh, the Summer Star Party, the Camp Out in Metchosin is scheduled for the weekend of the 28th, 29th, and 30th of July. So site is booked. I know Nelson's been helping make some arrangements to get some stuff, and Diane's on the quest to refresh us. So that's starting to take shape. We haven't put together too much of a program yet, but it will be the standard thing. We're probably a talk on the Friday night and the Saturday night. And we have rented the Metchosin house on the Saturday afternoon to try and maybe, if weather's permitting and people are available, we can do some solar viewing and have some presentations. So that's the goal for that weekend. So hope as many people as possible can come out and join us. And we hope we don't blow away, as it can prone to be a little windy on that site, as past participants will know. Yeah, I think that was everything I had. So Reg, do you have anything to say?
Hello, good people. Sky News for this month is the cover is a beautiful photo taken by John McDonald of the Fireworks Galaxy, and it's aptly named because the stars in this galaxy have an enriched diet of interstellar dust, and they have 10 times the number of supernovas that the Milky Way galaxy has. So on the 14th of May, an amateur astronomer discovered a supernova, and about 10 days later, our very own Dan Posey took a photo of it, and it's embedded in here. Another thing that happened, there's a list called Whitman's Summer Splendors, which is Alan Whitman's recommended objects to look in the sky. He's not too big on faint fuzzies. He wants to look at some other things to capture his eye. This is the last in the series of that. I corresponded with him, and on the 27th of May, we had a beautiful aurora. And he's a keen observer. He said it's the best that he's seen in 15 years since he moved down into the southern Okanagan. And so there is a story about the aurora here. The pictures taken by even me. So if you got a moment, have a look at that. And if anyone needs a hard copy of this, there's a few limited copies down here. See me after the presentation. Enjoy the show.
Thanks, Rich. Bruce, guess you're up.
So good news, our annual Canadian Revenue Agency return was accepted. Always a good thing when that happens. You never know until you get that little letter saying, it's good. I just don't know. Especially this year when there were so many delays with the electronic system for RASC National, so I was trying to find the two. Eventually I just had to send the CRA right away because it was getting too late. Our members account stands at $4,580. Gaming account at 20, plus another $7,000 indicating for future telescope purchases at PCO. And if Christian Venezuela is here today, he is. I've got something for you.
And will we be having the raffle starting soon? Is that?
We have the raffle of the unusual personable Dobsonian telescopes that you may have seen up at the Classic little outreach center there. It's definitely a very unique collector item that's Dobsonian collector. You'll never see another one like it. I can guarantee that. So that's what we're going to be raffling off. A piece of Celestron, I guess, Dobsonian history.
History, yeah.
So that'll be done next month.
You're going to start, okay, next month. Ken, do you have anything for outreach?
Hello, I'm Ken, I'm the Outreach Coordinator. Strawberry Festival at Beaver Lake. I sent a mass email around, but I forgot to put it, it's at Beaver Lake. July 9th, if you're available someday through the day, come see me and I can volunteer too. Otherwise, that's about it.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. And the schools program, I guess, kind of year-end report, Sid, I guess.
I'm sad to report that the year is gone. I don't know where it has gone.
No.
But we are sad to report because Laurie and Diane and I had fun going to the school. It was the most exciting year for us as we had about 45 presentations. At a couple of schools, we had about 4 and 5 presentations. They wanted us to come back. So we had to go on the second visit there. And the total Galileo moments was 1,473. I think this was a good year for us. Thank you for Laurie and Diane. They did a terrific job. And hopefully next year we will be even better.
How many dark skies observing?
Observing, yes, you missed a good one.
Oh, yeah, and I was here for all the ones that were reading.
That's right.
Oh, was that St. Margaret's?
Yeah, St. Margaret's.
Oh, St. Margaret's, oh, yeah, Chris is there.
We had canceled many nights time
Yeah.
living, and we had very successful St. Margaret.
Yeah, that one went well.
And we got even honorarium cup, nice St.
Yeah.
Margaret cups, yeah. And some. good
Tea,
soup.
tea, yeah.
Yeah, some tea. But anyway, maybe next year they will invite us again, so.
So invite, you didn't invite us, sorry.
Yeah, it was
Other
great.
years, we were rained out there. This year,
Yeah.
we said, oh, we will listen.
You probably ate the chocolate, right?
The weather has been so unpredictable this year, so can't help it.
Yeah, no, it has not been a good year for seeing the sky, but let's hope summer weather prevails for the next little while. Nelson isn't available tonight for the National. I'm not sure there's too much new with National, but maybe Chris could say a few words. And of course, we're in the lead up to the General Assembly, which will be over the Canada Day long weekend in Ottawa this year. So that will be a busy time in the nation's capital.
Yes. So I don't expect to come back with any selfies of Justin or anything. We'll be busy doing RASC business. By the way, our 150th anniversary is next year, and there's already gear on sale from the national office, so I ordered the cap. Yeah, so the GA's in Ottawa this year. Next year, it's going to be in Calgary, so it's going to be a little closer. And we have a bid for the GA in 2019 for the Yukon. So if you've always wanted to get north of 60, this might be a good excuse. But of course, I'm not sure what exactly the time of year is, but if it's around the usual time, it may not be the best time to start gazing. There's lots of other things up there. Hello, wrong number. Yeah, so I guess the national business is that we're working on the strategic plan, and that's going to be used to people over the next few days as we get ready for Ottawa. So I think that's about all I have to say about that. Any questions?
So you're going, and I think Jim's going, is that
Jim's
right?
going.
And Nelson's going.
And Nelson, yeah.
Yeah. So we have 3 members who will be at the General Assembly from the Victoria Centre.
That's right.
Have a good trip. And, yeah, wave to everybody.
That's right. That's right. I think, I think we've got like talks during the day in July 1st, so.
Yeah.
Which is probably just as well, because it'd be nuts. But I think we're gonna go out for the fireworks, of course, to ruin the perfectly good observing night.
Great.
That's right.
Well, it's going to be a fun time to be in Ottawa, I think. So should be a good weekend.
Yeah, we had to reserve our rooms like back in December, you know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's almost like the eclipse.
Yeah, that's right.
Technical committee, Matt, is there any updates? Or?
We had a meeting of the tech committee last week, or the week before, actually. Bruno hosted, and we spoke about some future plans for new equipment, what we're looking to do. Hopefully, we'll have something coming out of next week's meeting. Talk with the council.
And you've been doing some insulating, right, at the VCO set?
Yeah, there's been an ongoing project that Dan gave me some help the other weekend. Went up there and put some further insulation on the roof. There's going to be a little bit more work to do on that, but hopefully have a good impact on keeping things cool up there.
Trying to control the temperature a little bit, yeah. Great, thank you. Joe, anything on the website front, or we?
I think the website is running out pretty well. Thank you for posting your latest president's report. The information for the upcoming eclipse will float to the top of the page pretty soon, and I encourage everyone to have a look at that. It's a good summary. There's lots of links there. And also for people that are in the paper, by all means, look at your Sky News, because the issue is dedicated to people. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Joe. And Michelle's not here to discuss observing, so we were just hoping to, Ken.
Sid thinks it's a good idea to announce the solar eclipse. If you're going to be in town for the solar eclipse, we'll be up on Mount Tommy on August 21st, Monday morning. It's a morning event, so you're welcome to come on. Thank you.
We were hoping to do a little presentation to Lori, who's shortly to become a grandparent, and of course she got a phone call and has left the room at the moment, so that may be the news from... Well, except she left her stuff here. I don't think she's left yet.
Well, that's what that.
Chris,
Yeah.
further to the eclipse viewing, I
Right.
happen to notice that London Drugs is stocking Celestron eclipse glasses.
Oh, okay, I had not seen that.
I think it was about $4 a pair. So if you know others
Who want?
who want them in
Yeah.
excess of what we have,
Yeah.
Will there be eclipse glasses from National coming here?
We have, yeah, Ken has them.
Ken has, okay.
Yeah, so we are, Dorothy?
Well, I'm wondering whether Powell Point would also be a good place to have a eclipse watching after all, it's looking in the right direction.
Yes.
And it would highlight the urban historic park. It was so underused.
Yeah. Well, it really depends on, you know, how many resources there are in the end to go around, because so many people going to see the totality, there's quite a few people aren't going to be here, so that's proving to be a bit of a challenge. But I mean, if you want to, Ken is going to be here and doing the one spot there, so if other people want to try and host at a spot, that's, I guess, get in touch with Ken, because I guess we can split some of the glasses out.
And
We've
by the
also,
way, there's the little eclipse viewers that's in every issue of
yeah,
Sky
the
News
the new issue of Sky News, yeah. And the other thing, we've been approached by somebody who wanted to know if we could get the libraries on board and potentially have viewing at the Greater Victoria Public Libraries. But again, there's a lot of branches and not too many of us, so I'm not sure how far that will go. But
Parking lots are a little dangerous in Oakbay especially.
yeah. Well, I was thinking, like, it's central. I don't think you can see the sky by the downtown libraries. Not necessarily going to work. So I'm somewhat. Should we wait until after? Yeah. Okay. Well, we're hoping, as I say, we're hoping to have a little presentation to Lori, but I guess she's had to step out and hasn't come back. So maybe we'll go on with the speaker. So I'll turn over to Rich.
I've been anticipating this talk for months. And in 1985, Carl Sagan wrote a book called Contact, and in 1997 it was made into an excellent movie that starred Jodie Foster. But there were two other stars in that movie. One was the beautiful Arecibo radio telescope, and the other one was a very large array just to the west of Socorro, New Mexico. It just so happens that our next speaker has spent an extensive time at both of these radio telescopes, so I'm very excited to hear her talk tonight. Dr. Lisa Locke hails from the NWT, the town of Hay River, but she also lived in, where was it?
Pine Point.
Pine Point, okay. And then she went down to Edmonton and got her BSc in electrical engineering at the University of Alberta. She then went down to Cape Town and got a master's of science in electrical engineering. And she had interesting summers, or I guess school assignments at the Dominion Radio Astrophysical Observatory in Penticton, at Owens Valley in California, and also the largest, I think it's the largest steerable dish in the world at the big telescope in West Virginia. And after that, she spent 5 years working at Arecibo in Puerto Rico at the big 300-meter dish. And she also then went and worked at the expanded, very large array, beautiful telescope, radio telescope in New Mexico, which is kind of an icon for all the modern stuff. And it was played prominently in the Contact movie that I just mentioned. And then she came and got her PhD at the University of Victoria, and she's currently working at NRC Hertzberg, and she's going to have probably one of the first talks from the radio side of the street that I've heard here at a RASC meeting, so I'm really looking forward to this. So it's all yours.
Thank you for having me. I've also been looking forward to this. Check this out. All right. Yeah, that was pretty good remembering all those details. Okay, so, yeah, I guess, basically what I wanted to do was, I wanted to, since you probably haven't had a lot of radio type talks.
You can either put the mic in the center or turn it up. It's a directional mic.
Turn it off first. How's that? Okay, just have to get used to my voice now. Okay, okay, so what I was gonna do was, rather than pelt you with a very intense, radio instrumentation talk, I thought I would describe how I got into radio astronomy and sort of walk you through the steps that I took and that I figured out as I was going along. And I'll sort of insert in there a little bit of science and stuff. But basically, the whole thing will be teaching, but you won't know it. Okay, so here's the beginning. So I started off, like I said, in Pine Point, Northwest Territories. A very small town. Maybe when I was born, maybe there was 1,500 people. It was basically a mining town. It had one industry, and everybody's dad and some people's moms worked at the mine. This was an open pit lead and zinc mine. My dad worked there. My mom worked at the sewer store, and we were there for about 13 years. And it was a really good place to grow up. There was, you can sort of see here, this, every year there would be these things called Pine Point Days, and people would just load up their trucks with decorations, and although I didn't know it, there was lots of booze going on here too. So everybody had a great time. And then after a while, we came home one summer after a 2-month trip to Alaska, and they said, mine's shutting down. So in about a week, we packed up everything and left. And so now, right here, you can sort of see what it looks like. That's from, I think, a couple of years ago. But every couple of years, we go up to Pine Point. There was, they were required to take away all the buildings. So all of the houses went either to Hay River or somewhere south in Alberta. Our house went, I think, to Beaver Lodge. We went to visit it once. It was very, very strange. The arena went somewhere. So everything is gone except for these streets. And so you can walk along the streets and kind of imagine where your house was. People have picnics where their house was, and then I'd walk along the streets pretending I came home from school. Everything looks incredibly small and strange. But so yeah, in 1985 we moved. And so I'll start with this map because it's going to get really good. So we moved to Edmonton. And in Edmonton I realized, okay, so I go through junior high, I go through high school, and I realized I like math. I realized I like physics. But what I really wanted to do was I wanted to be an astronomer. But I really couldn't justify the fact that I might not get a job. So I went into engineering. So I thought, well, this is pretty good. And so in the meantime, I volunteered at the optical observatory, which used to be on the 7th floor of the physics building. And so every Thursday night, people would come by and we would help them use the telescopes. And there was this long corridor that had all of these optical like, posters and models of Hubble and pictures of all the planets. There's this one poster that was really weird. It looked like this. And I looked at it and I thought, what? Okay, now it wasn't this exact poster, it was this times about 3.5. So it was the 7-element block diagram for the synthesis telescope and thing. And I looked at it and I thought, what's this doing here? And then I looked at it and I realized, you know what? That's a reflector, and that's an amplifier. Oh, okay, I can sort of see what this is doing. And at this point, I was sort of at the end of my first year of engineering, and they were pushing us to decide, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Do you want to be mechanical? Do you want to be civil? Do you want to be mining? I have no idea. So I said, I want to be an astronomer, but I think I'm in the wrong spot. But then I look down, and there's this tiny little bird at the real bottom here. I look, and I'm like, oh, look at this. It says, image courtesy Dr. David Rutledge. Department of Electrical Engineering. Holy, I'm in the right path. So I go home and I got electrical number 1. And then they said, what's your number 2? I'm like, nothing. So luckily I got it. So I was very happy that I found the intersection between what I wanted to do and what I was in. So all I did from that moment on was bug the hell out of my Dr. David Rutledge. I knocked on his door and what can I do to become a radio astronomer? I said, well, there's an observatory in Penticton, but you know they don't really have much hiring, and it was all downhill from there. But then I said, well, is there a course? And he said, oh yeah. I said, well, can I take it? He says, it's a graduate course. I said, well, can I take it? And he said, what year are you in? I said, my first year. He said, well, you have to wait until about the 3rd year. I said, can I take it in second? He says, no. All right, so I went into my 3rd year. And I took the course, and I really liked it. So, okay, so here's an aside. So, apart from history, we'll start putting in this, basically where radio astronomy fits into optical astronomy. Because I'm assuming that most of you know where optical astronomy has been and it's gone. And we're just going to insert a little bit of radio here. So this diagram just shows that radio astronomy kind of grows out of small reflectors and large reflectors. And so at some point they realized, which is the next couple slides, that you could do astronomy not in the narrow region of optical frequencies. So sometimes I like to give you sort of the answer before we start talking step by step, because I know that in school sometimes they do that. They tell you step A, step B, step C. But you're like, why are we doing this? Well, this is why we're doing this. We want to get to here. Okay, so birth of radio astronomy. So back in the 30s, there was this guy. His name was Carl Hansen, and he was a physicist. He was newly minted out of some school. Smart guy. And so he went to work for Bell Labs, which is a coup in any decade. So they told him, we have this problem. We have these transatlantic phone wireless lines that are new and fangled, but they've got this static on them. It really annoys our people. So he built this rotating antenna, which works at 20 megahertz, and he used basically some forward wheels here, and it was actually pretty cool for its time. He built a receiver, turned this thing around, he started trying to narrow down where this hiss is coming from. He found the hiss from thunderstorms, but that's not a big deal. He found some hiss from some local transformers and power supplies, that's not a big deal. There was something, and it was a steadiness. So he wrote it down and he tracked it over the days. Started to figure out this thing was actually changing in direction. It was changing with sidereal time. So then he gets a little scared. Geez, this is coming from outside the atmosphere. It's outside. It's like galactic or something. So anyway, he publishes his findings, and the New York Times picks it up. Basically, it's like, oh, the end of the world's coming. You know, there's radio waves coming from the Milky Way. But this is 1933, and I don't think anyone really even though it was on the front page, I don't think anyone really, it didn't rock anybody's boat. But it did. So 8 years later, no, even more, a while. So all this stuff that Jansky did sort of lay dormant for a while. And this guy, Reaver, comes up. He's an engineer. He's a ham. He lives with his mother. He starts reading Jansky's works. Like, oh man, this is really cool. I wonder if I could replicate this. So, and he's nearby. He's in Wheaton, Illinois. I don't know where he found all the stuff because it wasn't the end of the war yet. But he spent something like $1,500 back then in his own money. Built this thing in his backyard, scared people. His mother used it to dry the laundry on. And it's huge. It's 30 feet in diameter. He builds a receiver. Actually, he built a very high frequency receiver to start with. I don't know why he picked up real high money. He picked like 2.some gigahertz, and he didn't see anything. So I thought, oh man. So then he brought it down a couple hundred megahertz, 700, I can't remember. Didn't see anything. So then he dropped it right down. Remember, Jansky's was at 20 megahertz. So he did one at 160 megahertz, and lo and behold, he starts to see the same stuff that Jansky did. So he starts drawing out the radio emissions of what he's seeing. It starts to look like sort of like an elongated galactic thing. And he publishes it, and he publishes it in the Astrophysical Journal, which is big for any engineer, even now. So then people started to take him seriously. But even so, I think his quest to get this published and to be taken seriously by the group of astronomers who are just optical based. Like, you can't do this with radio. This stuff is, I think they thought maybe it was beneath them. Like, this is a bunch of junk. How can this be used for astronomy? But it was a hard fight though. So here's some pictures. So yeah, prior to the 30s, pretty much every piece of astronomy research was optical, but then after Jansky and Reber, everyone started thinking, well, maybe we could, we can look at X-ray, we can look at infrared. A lot of these X-ray, infrared, and gamma rays don't make it to the ground, which is good. So they sent up balloons looking for infrared emission X-rays on rockets. So there's a couple of pictures here showing you the relative difference between infrared and optical. Ultraviolet, obviously, is pretty cool. Okay, so we'll go back. So that's now we'll take a break. Okay, so then I went to the Canadian Space Agency. So here I am, I'm in my second year of engineering, and it's co-op time. Everybody starts to get jobs. People are going to Northern Telecom. People are going to some gas companies, coal companies. I'm like, well, I don't know. Anyway, so I see this job. It's for the Canadian Space Agency. Everybody wants this because it's space. I gotta apply for this, but I know something they don't know. They want to work with the Canadian Space Agency, and yeah, so do I. But I know that the Canadian Space Agency is on the first floor of the National Research Council building in Ottawa, and guess what's on the second floor? The Hertzberg Institute for Astrophysics. Like, yes! So, and I actually said this during my interview. I said, he said, why do you want to work for us? And I said, I was honest. I said, well, space is nice, but you know who's on the second floor? I thought, I probably shouldn't have told him that. But he hired me, so I was in. Maybe he likes honesty, I don't know. So when I was at the Canadian Space Agency, I was actually doing a lot of programming. There was this instrument that was on the upper atmosphere research satellite that was up there. And ironically, this is an optical interferometer. This is the wind imaging interferometer. And it looks at wind velocities, chemistries, physics of all the stuff between 80 and say 110 kilometers up there. So, and then it belches down a whole bunch of data in binary level form. Boom, that's what I have to do. So, as I was parsing through all this data, doing lots of programming, every day at 2:30 in the afternoon, there'd be tea up at the second floor. So I'd march up there and start hobnobbing with all these astronomer types. And they were very calm, and they would sit down at 2:30, and this guy, his name was Paul Feldman. He was a real character, but I didn't know it at the time. I just thought he was an astronomer, so everyone had equal respect. So he sits down and he says, why don't you sit over here? And I said, well, I don't know about that. He says, you know, this chair, and it's kind of an old antique chair. It had leather on the bottom, but it was kind of worn. It's like, oh, wait, on second thought, don't sit there. That's Maxwell's chair. And I thought, really? Because if it was, why are you guys sitting on it? Turns out it wasn't. But from Ottawa, so I got to go back to school. So it actually took me 7 years to get my bachelor's degree. And it wasn't because I kept failing, because I only failed one class. It's just because I kept finding these cool jobs, and I had to go. So I applied for, of course, all the co-op jobs came in again, and most of them were not interesting anymore. So hell with this. And I sent out resumes, because this was 1995. Internet, whoa, you can actually send resumes by email. So I sent them to everywhere. I said, I want a job here, and 3 people answered. 2 of them were from Caltech. I can't remember the third. Anyway, so I interviewed over the phone with this guy from Owens Valley. He sounded very interesting. Actually, he sounded kind of English, so I told him he had an accent. And he said, no, I don't. And I said, yes, you do. And he said, no, I don't. And then I realized I shouldn't be arguing with this guy, because he's interviewing me. So, but somehow I got that job too.
Mostly, I think it was because they didn't really have any budget. They said, we can hire you,
But it's $9 an hour.
we don't have any money to bring you down. We don't have any money to bring you back up, and I don't know where you're gonna live. And I said,
But do you work at a radio observatory? He says, yeah. And I said, will I be working at the radio observatory? He says, yeah. I said, I'm there. So that was awesome. So I come down there, it's the beginning of July, and it was hot. And this is the desert. I says, so I land in Los Angeles, and I make my way to Caltech, which is pretty fancy. And then, more stories. Anyway, so I get in a car, and I drive up to Owens Valley, and I get over, and the road is, it's like the high desert. It's dry, it's high, it's weird. And the road comes, and all of a sudden there's this white thing on the horizon. What? Really? Is that it? Wow! And then next to it, there are the seven little ones in the interval. I'm so excited, I almost drove off the road. And I was just like, yeah, whatever, who cares? So I get there, I find a place. Actually made a lot of money. And I got to work at an observatory that worked at such high frequencies. It went from 85 to 230 gigahertz. That was incredible. But the stuff I was doing was only 30. But that was still pretty cool. And they got to teach me. I learned all about network analyzers, spectrum analyzers, being in the lab, learning how to drive a stick shift, because the cars that went to all of the telescopes, they were all standards, pretty much almost falling apart. But my job was to install a water vapor radiometer on every one of the telescopes, and then we also have to get the software running to talk to them. But the software didn't always talk to them, so you usually had to drive to every one of the telescopes, park the car, get up, go up in there, open the door, park everything, make it sure it's in stow, and then get in there and come back and go up, and then go to the next telescope. So it was awesome. So that was 8 months. That was pretty cool. And then I just keep going. Okay, so here we go. Now we're going to Green Bay. Now this is where I think I need internet. So hold on here. I'll open up the bubble. So I wasn't able to log on to UVic because I think my login finally expired. They're like, no, you're not a student here anymore. So Green Bank is an interesting place. It's like all observatories, out in the middle of nowhere. But this is truly strange because you're in sort of the eastern US. So you think, there's gotta be somebody somewhere, but you're in the middle of Appalachia. There's hills and hills, and so many deer. I think there's a statistic that in Green Bank, the deer outnumber the PhDs by 100 to 1. That's really saying something because there's lots of PhDs there. Let me see. Okay, well, this is just a video that you can't see. That I can't see. Maybe over here. Oh, it's connecting. We just have to wait. Okay, so Green Bank. Green Bank it's part of the National Radio Astronomy Observatory. Actually, now it's not, but then it was. And so that's the NRAO. It had 4 sites. One was in Virginia, which was mainly research and administration. And the people that didn't want to live in the boonies, they wanted to live somewhere where their kid could go to school. They lived in Charlottesville. And then there was Green Bank. That was the place that had the 140-foot telescope. It had the new 100-meter telescope, the GBT.
Maybe it won't work. Okay, so here's the GBT, and it took a long time to make this. When I got there, they were slowly moving, like what you can see here is they're slowly moving pieces from the reflector that was assembled on the ground up to the top. So, I don't think it'll sound, let's just sit down. It's not the greatest resolution, but it's pretty cool. And yeah, as students, we found out where this camera was, because they took a picture of it twice a day. And we realized which time they took the picture, so we would go over there and put our face in front of the photo. But only once in a while, because we really did want them to have a good video, not just something horrible. So, so when I was in Green Bank, there was a bunch of other REU students that were hired through the U.S. research experience for undergraduates. But since I was a Canadian, I couldn't do that. So they basically found some money in some other pot and called me a summer student. So I was kind of a summer student and kind of not. So it was good because although I had to give talks like the other summer students, I didn't have to. I was actually paid. But that didn't matter because we were in an observatory, so who cares as long as you can eat. And during this summer was when contact came up, and we were just freaking. So we would go to the nearest town, Elkins, and that was the one that had the movie theater. And we would go there once every 4 or 5 days because we're like, let's watch it again, let's watch it again. And every time we did, we'd see another clip of some observatory and be like, oh, there's Carl, or oh, there's Andrewian, because she had a cameo in it. And then at the end, we would always say for Carl, and it would be like this sort of calm, because all the students would be like, yeah, and some jackass from who's Carl? West Virginia, so that was good. I worked on some pretty high frequency stuff there. It was really neat. Oh, science. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I told you that so classically astronomy was just in this tiny little band here. So this is supposed to be a ground-based optical telescope. I don't think it looks like one, but anyway, this is showing you this is the atmospheric opacity right up here. Right there. Okay, so where it's high, we can't see through it. So it's blocking all of the high frequency stuff like gamma rays, X-rays, and ultraviolet a little bit. We've got some windows here in the infrared that you can see from the ground, but not so great. And then there's this huge radio window where you can see, you can put radio and microwave telescopes on the ground. It's better if you put them high, which is why all telescopes, no matter what they're looking at, are trying to be as high as they can in order to minimize the amount of atmosphere that they're looking through. So in Ticton, Radio Observatory, CFHT, and a whole bunch of other optical telescopes, and Chandra is a nice example for X-ray. So geometrically, radio can be compared quite on par with optical. So this is the TMT telescope here, and I think this is right. I was going to check this to see if this is just, you see something on Facebook, like, no, that can't be right. But I put it in here, and then I didn't actually check my facts. So I want to check to see if this is actually right. I know the TMT.
I'll check when I'm at the GA.
I don't know how big this thing is. Okay, so anyway, you can compare optical telescopes with radio in the fact that you do have a giant reflector, and it basically takes the signal, it'll bounce it a couple of times, as many as it needs necessary in order to put it into whatever instrument, whatever receiver or detector that you're using. The same with on this telescope here. So this is the one from NASA's Deep Space Network in Goldstone. It's something like 40 meters, or there's a couple different sizes. Basically the same thing. Your signals come in, they bounce around a couple of times. Yeah, okay. And then it goes into the center here. So, okay, so some basic critical things for radio versus optical. Optical, you can't see through dust. Radio, you can. That's right. Radio, you can actually, because you're actually looking at the phase of the signal. You can determine the velocity of the chemical that you're looking at. So if you see something, some cloud, and you're able to determine A, whether it's receding or coming towards you, and what that actual speed is. You can also tell things because you know what sort of a signature you're looking for, whether the signature is broadened or not. You can tell stuff about the kinematics of what's actually going on in the clouds. But that's about as far as I know about radio astronomy. For something more, you need some other radio astronomy scientist, kind of like my boss. He can talk about that. In the radio, you generally need very large reflectors because your wavelength is yay big. You can go from here to like here. So if you want something that's basically 20 or 100 lambdas wavelengths across, that's going to be pretty big. But in the optical, you can do with some things that are smaller. Of course, big is always better, as long as it's not going to change or deform with gravity. So this is my favorite poster, and I don't know why I haven't printed it out yet, because I look at it, and every once in a while, I see new things. So this is, NASA put out this poster, and it's basically different, looking at the galactic ridge, or the galaxy, in different frequencies, all the way from 400 megahertz, all the way down to gamma ray, right? So, and if you look at, and then they've sort of lined it up, sized it, so everything, so you can see sorts of things, and this is mostly optical, but this is true optical, so I don't really know what they're doing right here. Maybe just using it for, I don't know. Anyway, what you can see is that the center of the galaxy, which is hidden in the optical, is very bright in almost every other band, especially in the lower frequencies here. And then there's things that in the band are completely obscured by dust, but they're incredibly hot in the higher frequencies here. So this is the view of pulsar, the supernova remnant. I'm guessing that's it too. I guess maybe the dust is just obscuring it all over the place here. You can tell about things like, this is the frequency that molecular hydrogen will mostly show up as, so it's a nice tracer for it. Just think it's neat. Sometimes you don't know what you're supposed to be looking for, and you can tell that as you go lower in frequency, the resolution is getting worse. It's the wavelength's getting longer. It's harder to make really good fine resolution images. Oh, this picture here, I looked up what this Cygnus OB1 was. So I didn't know what it was. I thought, what is that? It's actually it's an optical astronomy classification. I think it just means a bunch of stars or a region, but maybe OB is like the temperature, kind of like. Anyway, this is the picture that I got when I looked up Cygnus OB1. There's all kinds of stuff in there. So that's pretty neat. Oh, okay, we're going traveling again. Now we're going to South Africa. So I basically realized that it's probably time to get my master's because why not, right? And so I wanted to go to Africa, but I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of money and not get anything for it. So I found a school that did radar and remote sensing, and they were in Cape Town, which is probably one of the safest places if you're going to go anywhere in Africa to go. And after I talked to some people who lived there, and I realized that I wasn't completely nuts. I was like, okay, let's do it. So there we are. So we're in Cape Town. It's a very beautiful type of city. I've never been to Europe. Everyone kept telling me, oh, it's just like here. It's just like here. And I'm, okay, well, whatever. Maybe when I go to Europe, I'll figure it out. So for a year there, I worked in their group and did a master's thesis. I tried to do it all in a year because I really could only afford to be there for a year. So I got everything done. I wrote it up. I wrote a paper. It got out. And then I came home and they had some edits and stuff, so I did it from home. But basically what I was working on was a synthetic aperture radar simulator. So basically what they would give me is they would give me a digital elevation model, and they would say, what is the synthetic aperture radar satellite gonna give us? So I made this software that this is what my software said it was gonna get, and this is the actual data from the European radar sat, no, whatever ERS stands for. And so the only thing that it can't give you is information about like where the houses are. This is a very densely populated flat area, the waterfront here. So the digital elevation model can't tell you anything about that. But it was cool. It was cool to be able to use software again to make, and it actually predicted stuff. It's like, wow, science works. That was really neat. Where are we on this slide? Okay. So now we're up to the year 2000. The millennium thing happened. It wasn't a big deal. My parents moved back up north. I helped them. Some other romantic entanglements, but don't worry. So I have to get a job. So I did my sort of thing, and I blanketed the world with resumes. And one came back. It's this guy named Don Campbell. He was from Cornell. And he said, no, there's a radio observatory in Puerto Rico, and they're always looking for people with experience. Really? Puerto Rico? Holy man, okay. And they said, oh, okay, can you come down for an interview? I said, do you know where I am? I'm in the Northwest Territories. They said, how far could it be? So they paid for a trip for me to go from Hay River to Edmonton, to Toronto, to Miami, to Arecibo, and to have like a 2-day. And that was cool. And I got the job. So I went back. So Arecibo, like they said, is it's a 300-meter dish. It's built in sort of the base of a karst area, lots of limestone. Anyway, there's this big sinkhole. And they put a dish there. And like, well, this is 1963. So, and this was the U.S. Army. So they had tons of money. This thing was built in about 2 years. And they built this platform that had 3 holders on either side. And so what the platform does is it actually moves the receiver. And so the dish is stationary, but the receiver moves back and forth. So the region on the sky that you can see can tilt back and forth, but you have to wait. You can basically track stuff, but only for a limited amount of sky. But it was good. It was good for low frequency, relatively cheap stuff. And they kept upgrading it. They upgraded the dish. They upgraded the receiver area. Instead of having just regular old line feeds, this is a spherical dish, and the focus point is a line, which is okay if you've got these cool antennas that are nice and long and low frequency. I mean, narrow bandwidth. But astronomers, they want more. They want wider bandwidths. They want to cover everything from 1 to 10 gigahertz. I'm like, can't do that. So what they did is they built this structure, and in here is 2 extra reflectors, so that everything from this main reflector here gets actually now focused to a point. And when you do that, you can actually use regular type of receivers. You can use receivers with horns. You can use cryogenic receivers. So now you can use all the wide bandwidth that you need. But you need to have receivers that need a lot of babysitting. So every day we would go up and we would check to make sure all these receivers were happy. It's kind of like going into a nursery and making sure no one's crying. And if someone's crying, fix him, check his compressor. Anyway, so it was a lot of cool work. This is a picture underneath the reflector. The reflector's really thin. Basically you can't walk on it. Despite the pictures from Gold and I were running down it. That's ridiculous. You can walk up to the telescope on the sort of a rickety suspension type bridge, or you can take this cable car, which is kind of like a gondola in a prison. It's kind of scary. You're in it, and it's got like walls right to here, but you can look over and you can throw your glasses or I don't know. And there's no bathroom up here. So everything's got to be planned. So you go up there for 3 or 4 hours, you come back down for lunch, and that's it. So, but Arecibo is right now it's no longer the largest reflector. The one in China, which is 500 meters. So here we are for scale here. China just finished their own, almost exactly the same. Actually, while I was there, a couple of guys from China came over, had a nice tour. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is really neat. I'm like, yeah, look at this. We're showing you everything. Boom, they make their own. Okay. Anyway, so and you can kind of compare it with Green Bank. Green Bank's only 100 meters, but also Green Bank is fully steerable. You gotta weigh these things equally here. Jodrell Bank, older one in the UK. Oh, and then I met this guy. And go there. Okay, so also to put things into perspective, since you're used to optical stuff, I thought this graphic once I saw it was really helpful. So because people talk about large optical telescope, well, how big is big really? So a TMT is this big here, the one that's really huge. And before that, I was always used to Palomar and stuff. Where is that? Is it even on there? Well, yeah, here it is. Palomar. Okay, so I read this book about Palomar. It was just ginormous, right? It's like really tiny. It's like a washer. Okay, and then here, so this is all optical. But has anyone heard of this overwhelmingly large telescope? What's going on with that?
Yeah.
It sounds funny. Imagine making one single dish. Anyway, so this gray area here, this is Arecibo size, and it's the only radio one that's in here. So that's pretty big, but I mean it's apples and oranges, right? But it's just a way to give you a scope on the size of things. So while I was in Arecibo, so a lot of the stuff that we're working with now is cryogenically cooled receivers, and receivers in order to reduce their noise level. It's mostly thermally made noise. In order to reduce it, you need to cool it. So in order to cool it, you need to have a vessel basically that has no air in it. So it's a vacuum vessel. Everything's made of metal. Everything's totally expensive, but it's fun. And this is my friend Gene here. He's working on a dewar like here, and it's connected up to actually this home-built liquid nitrogen cold trap. He just made it. It's like, well, we needed one, so I made one. He made it out of a garbage can. And he poured liquid nitrogen into it. Actually, he pours it into here, and then it drips in there. It was amazing. This guy eventually went to University of Arizona. I don't know where he is now. So this is basically why kids want to be engineers, because it's fun stuff. Look at this. It's just coming out there. You know, he's not wearing any kind of personal protective equipment like we should, right? Well, at least that's what the National Research Council tells me. Okay, so and then there's this is like the only equation I'm going to throw at you. But I always wondered, okay, so you have a celestial object, it's emitting stuff, and at some point we're going to stick it on a computer. But there's a couple of steps, and once you break it down, it seems a little bit more obvious, I think. Celestial objects emit in the radio for a couple of different reasons. One is just by nature of their temperature. Another one could be the fact that they have a certain spectral line, like if they're a certain chemical element, they will resonate, they will emit at a certain frequency, and it'll have a certain shape. For whatever reason, even people emit, right? Because you have an infrared camera, and we're all emitting. It just depends on which temperature. And all of that information goes through the atmosphere. As it goes through the atmosphere, it gets attenuated by a lot. And actually the power goes down by the distance squared. So this power, even if it started off like a light bulb, by the time it gets to us, it's like the halfway across the galaxy. It's a very, very small amount of power that's coming into this telescope. So that's why the telescope needs to be large. It needs to have a huge amount of gain, and whatever receiver you put there, it better be damn good. So, and then after that, so that's what the receiver is here. The receiver is placed right at the focal point of whatever reflector you're using. And once it goes through the receiver, then it's not a really big deal. Then you give it to the digital guys, they sample it, they stick it on a disk or in memory or whatever, then they access it. So this is an old slide, that's why it says tape. I also made it at Arecibo because they were using tape at the time. Basically, yeah, so receivers are required to detect, sometimes they change the frequency, sometimes they always amplify, but they always want to preserve the signal faithful. They don't want to add any kind of distortion to it. Oh. Okay, so now we're going to Socorro. So now, let's see, what point are we at here? Okay, I spent 5 years in Arecibo, and it was a really exciting time to be there. But when I moved there, they had only a couple of receivers in some very narrow bands. And by the time I left, they had covered the whole 1 to 10 gigahertz completely. So that was gold. But it has started to become not as interesting. You know, you sort of reach the plateau. Okay, good. My husband actually looked on monster.com, and he's like, "What about this job? This sounds perfect." I look at that. You know what? It is, but it's Socorro. That's like the best place in the world. It's like, wow, you can do it. So okay, I tried, and we go. And so in Socorro, they have this. It's called a very large array. It's sort of a Y-shaped interferometer. It was built in 1978, maybe 1980. 27 dishes. Each of them are pretty big. They're 25 meters big. And on each telescope, they have another 8 receivers covering from, well, the goal was also to do broad frequency range from 1.2 to, I think they wanted to go up to 50 gigahertz. But they only just almost the same in Arecibo. It's almost all the radio observers at the time were leaning towards more and more bandwidth, more and more, better and better receivers. So we were basically taking the 70s, 80s air receivers and replacing them because the amplifier technology had gotten better. So we were kind of gunking out the old amplifiers and putting in the newer ones, and at the same time maybe changing the horn a little bit. So it was good because I got to see how a lot of systems are made, how a lot of quality, and basically with the amount of money that the US had, how can you do it so that it's the best? No matter how much money, how can you do it? And it was nice to be parts of groups that basically had lots of resources left. So right now, the EVLA is going through another upgrade. Actually, it's more like a third. Is from 2004 to 2012, they upgraded all those original receivers. And right now they're talking about making the array even larger. But who knows if that'll happen. So I found this picture online. You end up Googling yourself and you find the weirdest stuff. There was a picture of me. And so this is me at my desk with short hair. And so when I was working here, my job was to help design a better orthogonal transducer for one of the receivers. So receivers they're sensitive to both linear and horizontal polarization, kind of like on your car, you used to have one vertical radio antenna. But now, now we don't have any. But radio astronomers are interested in any emissions, and the signals generally aren't polarized a certain way. So we have to make sure that we're sensitive to both polarizations so that whatever is coming out, we're going to get it. So both of these polarizations are coming down, they come through the horn, and they have to be split. So this thing that splits them, this is what I'm working on right now. So in the end, we made one. It was basically like a shorter version of one that already worked, but in the end, when you make things smaller, it's never that simple. You always end up almost redesigning it. And then we went back there last year. So our Tesla and the array are here. This is not like 2005. Oh, and then these guys came along. So my son's American, actually dual citizen. And, oh, we're getting close to the end here. Okay, so Victoria, so after that, I realized, you know, I kind of want to do my PhD, and I think it's feasible, because I found this group. I found this magic combination of engineering and astronomy, and it's at one school. And there was another school, but it just had optical astronomy. It had no engineering. I can't do that. I'm not going to go and get my physics degrees all now. I've gone through engineering. This is the right way to go. So I found the perfect match, and it was for me. And I came and I interviewed them. It was the first time I interviewed them. I don't know if they realized it, but I did. And you won. So I came back, and so for 4 years I worked on. So most receivers generally are single pixel, kind of like how it's kind of like we changed receivers from being a single pixel to being multiple pixels, kind of the same way that cameras are now have multiple. In CCD, there's lots of different pixels, but it's not as simple as that. So instead of just having one horn at the focus, now we're having multiple ones, like seriously a 5x5 array we designed. So instead of just, so for the astronomer, what that means is instead of just having one little tiny piece on the sky that they can look at a time, they have a much larger view and at the same resolution. So for added complexity, they get a faster survey time. So that's what this was. But it involved a lot of high frequency simulation, prototyping, really cool stuff. And if you want to see it, it's here. So you can see it later, and it works. Although, you know, this has been on display for a long time, so maybe it doesn't work as well, but it still works. And this is also the first graduation ceremony that I was able to go to in like 24 years. So I missed all the other ones, which I didn't mind. But you know, this one really counted. So I was happy. Okay, so this picture. So instead of like just having 5x5, there are places out there that are doing this in excess. So each one of these little points here is an antenna. So you've got something like 1,500, I don't know, 5,000 antennas. And what they do is they use it kind of. This is an active array right now. Well, it's not on, but it's working. The roof of this building, this is in the Netherlands, the roof of this building is RF transparent. And so what they do is they use it kind of like as a phased array. And they can simulate multiple beams looking at different parts of the sky at the same time. So I guess as an astronomer, they could look one way and do one type of science, or at the same time look another way and do a different type of science. They can change the shapes and the locations of the beams. You don't have to wait for a giant metal object to be able to slew to a different position, just like the military can. You can shoot it around and look every second. Anyway, I got to visit that. That was pretty happy. Okay, so this is here, the Plaskett telescope. One day it snowed, so I walked around and took a whole bunch of photos. So this is one of them. I think I'll show you what I'm working on. So in Penticton, I have my project that I'm working on here involves a couple of people in Penticton. So also just to give them some airtime here to show you what's going on there. So there's the classic John Galt telescope, the 26 meter, which is, can you see that? Yeah, you can. Which is here. They're working on a new, so this is the synthesis telescope, the one that the 7 element interferometer. It says 7 elements. Sorry. And then they're also working on, in collaboration with UBC and McGill and U of T, this telescope called SHINE. And it's basically, it's like a elongated parabolic reflector, which focuses to a line, and then at that line they put all the little receivers. So it's a very inexpensive way to make a very large effective area at the expense of, well, you can't tell tale. you might be able to steer it in like sort of in a direction here, but I'm not too sure. Anyway, that's going on. I think they're going to increase it to 8 to double that size. But, so things are progressing there. So this is what I'm working on here. It's kind of the same sort of ideas that I did for my PhD, but larger. So what we're doing is in a lower frequency, and within a cryostat, we're making metal Vivaldi antennas. So we're going to make 96 of them. The center ones here are all active. This is within a cryogenically cooled environment, and it acts as, like right here, actually I think this one just shows you one element being excited. So you can see that, and you have to think of it in reverse. Right now it's transmitting, but just go backwards in time. Antennas work, doesn't matter. They don't care about time. You can turn them around. So right here, you can sort of imagine all of these being excited at one time. Anyway, that's a big project. And I think this was supposed to be another video, so we might have to talk for a bit. So this was just a picture of the actual antenna elements. These ones right here. So we made 4 of them in order to like a prototype, and they're made out of solid copper. They're absolutely beautiful. Right now they're in Markham, Ontario, being gold plated, and when they come back, they'll just be a thing of beauty. But even so, oh, I want to show you this video. Okay, so I took a video of this. So we wanted to show this at Casca, which was in Edmonton. And they said, well, do you have any cool stuff that we could, show everybody? And we're like, wow, they've got these brand new things, but they're so delicate. Like you can see these tiny little edges here. These are the feed points here. I'm like, I don't want to give this to you. So what we did is we, the machinist brilliantly did this. They bolted it on this nice piece of beautiful black something or other, and then we found this nice plexiglass dome, bolted it all down. Everything is good. So let's see if it's over. Seems to agree. Anyway, so this is the prototype. I like this imagery. So that's what we're working on. So our group does all kinds of, thank you. Our group does all kinds of work, anywhere from 1 to say 150 gigahertz. We work on instrumentation pieces for ALMA, for NRAO, for basically anyone who wants stuff. But this project is sort of an in-house project. We're using it to prove that phased array feeds can be cooled, because to date, there's only been one other group at Cornell that has done it. Vastly different system. And we're using a curved radome, which sort of lends, there's a guy in Penticton who, all of the new telescopes out there are made with composite materials instead of as a replacement for metal. And he also said, well, I could make a radome. And the good thing about that is because the antennas are very sensitive to metal. They don't like having metal around them. So if you stick them in a dewar, they're not going to be very happy, because they're going to have a radio transparent window at the top, but all of the sides around them will affect their performance. So in order to get like a beautiful hemispherical radio see-through dome, that sounded like amazing. So his name is Gordon Lacey. He used to make boats. He was a ship builder. So he's actually making our radome. So there's a lot of pieces of this system that are new that everybody else is kind of waiting to see how it's going to turn out, and so are we. So it's definitely a work in progress. If you come up to the observatory up on the hill, we can show it to you. Anyway, I guess that's about that.
Thank goodness, it's a great human interest story. I'm so happy you followed your dream and seen it work. You know, it's wonderful to hear a story like that. Have we got any questions?
You mentioned coming out to the observatory to see that. Do you guys get tours up at the observatory or anything like that?
Not formally, but anytime anybody comes, we welcome them, and we show tours, you know, you can give you I can give you tours at the millimeter lab, and I know Dimitri can give tours at the plasma. So between the two, I'm sure we can arrange something.
Where are you going next?
Is this still being recorded? I'm here for now.
There's a ship heading to Mars at some point in the future.
Yes, I've already sort of put my money down for that.
Joe, you have a question?
I'll take you off the hook, yeah. Do you have a client in mind for the cooled sensors that you're working on right now?
Not really. What we'll probably do is we'll install them in Penticton and see if they work.
Okay.
And basically what we'll do is, usually at that point, someone will say either, we want that, or can you make us one, but we would like it like changed a little bit, and sure, and we'll go.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I have a question now regarding your time at Green Bank. I understand that some biologists put a whole pile of radio transmitters on flying squirrels that caused havoc there. Were you in?
What?
Yeah, they did. Pretty much shut the place down. So,
Yeah, they don't like transmitting anything. They actually have this van that drives around and looks for people that are disobeying the radio laws. And they'll go in there and they have the authority to confiscate your appliance that is emitted. Like they will actually take a lot of, they find a lot of heating blankets that are just old and just sort of broadcasting all over the bed. So they'll take it and give you a new one. Or there's a lot, I don't know what people do for cell phones now. They say they don't have any, but you know, then there's no tower. So yeah, it's actually in the middle of a radio quiet zone. So it's a national rule.
so you were sabotaged by biologists.
Although they really can't arrest the squirrels.
That's great. Is there any other questions?
I'm just wondering if you're the one, I visited Green Bank one time, and there was apparently some radio interference that was causing a lot of problems. And it was sporadic, it was just from time to time. And it was somebody having coffee. Do you know this story?
No, it sounds fun.
Apparently, if you turn the microwave on, you warm your coffee, and instead of waiting until it finishes, you open the door, it goes off. But in the meantime, a little bit of burst of microwaves come out. And this was causing all kinds of problems there until they finally figured out where it was coming from.
Well, the cafeteria does have a microwave, but it's within a Faraday cage. So
It wasn't it wasn't.
it wasn't at this time, so that might have been it before, because they don't allow any microwaves. It's kind of like there's no microwaves, there's toaster ovens. But in our place, there's no toaster ovens, there's microwaves. So it's kind of weird. I guess we really don't care about that frequency, but okay. So what was your question? Oh yeah, the microwaves. Yeah, that's possible.
As a token of appreciation, we have for you one of our coveted. This is a white wine carafe. We also use water.
That's cool.
Well, listen, thank you so much for such an entertaining, interesting
Oh,
talk.
it's my pleasure.